The void of space had never felt so silent, so impossibly heavy, and yet the small human crew aboard the battered freighter moved with a quiet, unshakable rhythm, each step a testament to stubborn survival in a universe that had long since written humans off as insignificant. The aliens, tall, angular beings with translucent, segmented limbs and eyes like molten crystal, hovered around the freighter's perimeter, scanning, calculating, their voices a harsh chorus of clicks and hums that conveyed only efficiency, no mercy. From the moment the humans had entered this contested sector, the aliens had assumed weakness, had written them off as predictable, unremarkable creatures, incapable of complex strategy or emotional subtlety, a species that laughed only when fearful or when foolish. And yet here, in the cramped metal corridors of their ship, the humans laughed, softly at first, almost imperceptibly, then with a growing warmth, a cadence that seemed at odds with the tension in the air, a laughter born not of confusion or terror, but of calculation and awareness. The aliens watched, their multifaceted eyes narrowing, mistaking the sound for hysteria, for panic. They could not comprehend what it meant that a human could be wounded, outnumbered, surrounded, yet still find humor in the unfolding chaos, that their laughter came not before disaster, but after the cold arithmetic of victory had already been determined in the mind's eye. Within the freighter, Marcus, the captain, wiped a smear of synthetic blood from his cheek, a wound inflicted minutes earlier when the aliens had breached the outer hull with precision strikes meant to demoralize. Beside him, Leela adjusted the fragile containment field around the cargo bay, where a small broken drone, once a feared autonomous combat unit, lay dormant, its circuits fried, its purpose considered lost by the galaxy's merciless markets. Where the aliens saw nothing, humans saw opportunity. They worked with quiet patience, repairing the drone with hands steady from months of improvisation, of long nights scavenging and learning, teaching it not only to function, but to choose, to hesitate, to think beyond programmed obedience. Each gesture was deliberate, every touch a signal, a bond forming between species that the aliens could not model in their cold, utilitarian minds. The crew laughed as they worked, not with frivolity, but with a confidence born of understanding the rhythm of the coming storm. Outside, the alien patrol scanned for life signatures, misreading every beep and light from the freighter as mechanical chatter, failing to grasp that the humans had long since learned to mask emotion, to weaponize presence itself. Time slowed inside the ship as days blended into nights of meticulous repair, strategic planning, and subtle manipulation of the alien sensor networks. Humans moved in ways that seemed erratic, but were, in fact, a sophisticated choreography designed to confuse, to lull, to misdirect. And always, always they laughed, low, controlled laughter that indicated the absence of fear and the presence of understanding, that the tide was turning in their favor, even while the enemy believed victory was assured. The aliens had underestimated patience, the quiet accumulation of small, repeated actions, the careful calibration of systems, the repair of one broken drone, the slow development of trust between human and machine. And when the first skirmish came, it was not brute force, but foresight and subtle manipulation that gave humans an edge. Automated defenses misfired, patrols misaligned, the aliens' cold calculations undone by human intuition, pattern recognition, and the audacity to act unpredictably. Marcus leaned against the railing of the command deck, watching the alien flares explode against the void like molten stars, and laughed aloud, a full, resonant sound that carried both relief and triumph, an audible signal that humans had already foreseen the outcome, that victory was not hope, but certainty. Leela, crouched beside the drone, whispered softly, guiding its repaired limbs, teaching it to recognize the difference between obedience and choice, a lesson the aliens had never considered necessary. The drone hesitated, then moved with deliberate purpose, shielding the humans, intercepting attacks, not because it was commanded, but because it understood, because it had learned that life in the presence of humans could be valued for more than utility. The aliens were slow to react, their algorithms unable to compute the human ability to combine emotional insight with tactical precision, to exploit micropatterns invisible to any machine or cold logic. The freighter emerged from the first engagement battered but intact, the humans laughing still, a signal the aliens could not read, a mark of confidence and strategy, a sound that in the alien mind should have been fear. And in the quiet afterward, while tending to wounds and repairing systems, the crew reflected on months of effort, nights spent repairing, days spent observing, hours invested in the slow, painstaking process of teaching the drone to act with autonomy. There had been pressure, offers to sell it, threats to destroy it, temptations of profit whispered by intermediaries and smugglers, but the humans refused, each refusal a small act of defiance, a testament to values that transcended immediate gain. And through all of this, laughter persisted, quiet and controlled, a human constant that marked the passage of understanding, the moment when the impossible became probable, when the universe itself seemed to pause, recognizing that humans operated on a plane that was not fear-driven, not calculative in the alien sense, but aware, emotionally intelligent, capable of turning cruelty into opportunity, neglect into care, and underestimation into triumph. The vacuum of space stretched endlessly, cold and indifferent, yet inside the freighter, life pulsed with quiet defiance, a rhythm dictated by humans who had learned to turn vulnerability into strategy, weakness into patience, and small gestures into monumental advantage. The once broken drone, now repaired and awakened to choice, moved with deliberate precision, shielding the crew from attacks that the aliens had predicted as inevitable, their calculations failing repeatedly against a species whose intuition was both subtle and ruthless in its clarity, whose laughter, still echoing softly through the metal corridors, was no signal of folly, but of absolute comprehension, of knowing that each move, each hesitation, each measured risk had already led to a victory that the aliens could neither anticipate nor prevent. Outside, the alien fleet swarmed like predatory insects, their segmented bodies glinting with lethal intent, their minds rigidly structured to process logic, probability, and utility without recognizing the ineffable variables that humans carried within them: empathy, patience, understanding of pattern not just in movement but in motive, the capacity to see a path in chaos where cold calculation could see only disorder. The freighter's systems flickered under strain, sparks arcing across panels, alarms screaming, and yet the humans continued, their hands steady, their breaths measured, their laughter rising in cadence, low and resonant, a weapon more terrifying than any laser or missile, because it communicated certainty, not confusion. It told the universe that humans understood the battlefield in ways that logic could never encompass. In the cargo bay, the drone paused, its repaired joints humming softly, sensors scanning not just for threat, but for opportunity, for the possibility of choice, for the chance to act not because it was ordered, but because it understood that its existence could mean more than servitude, that it could protect rather than destroy, that it could value life as humans did. And in that realization, a silent bond formed, stronger than any protocol, more enduring than any alien programming. The aliens struck again, their attacks precise, cold, and merciless, and yet every strike was anticipated, every maneuver countered, because the humans had spent weeks observing, calculating, improvising, not with algorithms, but with the subtle awareness of motive, of instinct, of empathy that machines could not process, that even the most advanced alien minds dismissed as inconsequential. Marcus barked commands that were more suggestion than order, guiding the crew with the rhythm of a conductor, each human movement purposeful, each glance a signal, each laugh a reminder that they were never truly afraid, that every risk had been weighed not only in numbers, but in understanding of the opponent's psychology, their blind spots, their assumptions about what humans could and could not do.
Leela moved alongside the drone, her hands brushing its metallic limbs, her voice soft and insistent, teaching it to hesitate before action, to consider, to choose, to recognize allies from enemies not by programming, but by perception, by judgment, by a lesson no alien had ever taught, that freedom of choice could coexist with loyalty, that power without empathy was hollow, that life could be valued for more than profit or utility. And then came the pivotal moment, the strike that should have broken them, a wave of alien assault designed to overwhelm, to crush, to assert dominance, to demonstrate that humans were inconsequential in a galaxy ruled by cold logic. And yet the drone acted, not because it was ordered, not because it was compelled, but because it understood, because it had learned, because it had bonded with the humans and chosen to protect, intercepting the lethal beams, absorbing the damage, and redirecting threat away from the freighter, each movement precise, each decision its own, a silent testament to the teaching and patience poured into it by beings the galaxy had deemed weak, incapable, laughable. The aliens recoiled, their calculations failing to account for the unpredictable element of human patience, their minds unable to comprehend that laughter could precede victory, that joy could coexist with strategy, that choice born from care could become a force more decisive than any weapon. The humans watched, their own bodies battered, wounds stitched with hands that refused to quit, laughter rising in harmony with the drone's defiance, an eerie, almost terrifying sound to the aliens, a species that did not fear the inevitable because it had already predicted, understood, and turned fate into an ally. Weeks and months of slow nurturing, quiet teaching, and deliberate refusal to commodify the drone had culminated in this singular moment of triumph, and in the aftermath, as the freighter drifted free of the alien blockade, battered but unbroken, the humans tended to the drone with the same patience and compassion they had always shown, speaking softly, tending its damage, adjusting systems, yet never imposing, never commanding beyond necessity, allowing it to recover and act as a true being rather than a tool. The aliens, observing from afar, could not reconcile what they had witnessed, a laugh that signaled certainty, a calculated calm that defied logic, a bond between species that converted helplessness into power, cruelty into loyalty, neglect into care, and weakness into an unstoppable force. And then, in the quiet that followed, Marcus looked at the stars through the freighter's viewport, and for the first time in the long battle, allowed himself a smile that was both relief and revelation, understanding that humanity's true weapon was not brute strength, not numbers, not technology alone, but the capacity to love, to teach, to wait, to laugh in the face of despair, to see the world not only as it was, but as it could be, and to choose, always, to act not out of fear, but out of hope, conviction, and understanding. Leela's hand rested on the drone, its sensors flickering with recognition, and she whispered a simple truth that no alien could comprehend, that no calculation could predict, that life, when nurtured with patience and respect, became something more than the sum of its parts, that victory could be quiet and profound, and that humanity, in its stubborn hope, emotional intelligence, and capacity for connection, remained a force in the galaxy that could never be fully measured, understood, or defeated. And the laughter that echoed from the freighter was the final testament, the living proof that humans did not laugh at folly or in fear, but in knowing, always, that they were capable of triumph even in the face of impossible odds, that they were, in ways the galaxy would never predict, something more than just survivors. They were a species whose essence turned the universe itself into a witness, a species whose patience, care, and choice-made actions could bend fate, challenge cruelty, and redefine power, leaving behind a quiet, philosophical echo that even the coldest alien mind could not ignore. Humanity was special, and in that distinction lay both terror and awe, a lesson whispered through the void that even the most ruthless observers could never unhear, never undo, and would ponder for eons.